Welcome to Tower's Home Buying Basics webinar. I'm Lori Branish with the Lending Department at Tower Federal, and I'll be presenting a portion of today's webinar. Also presenting today is Jeremy Walsh with the Simply Referable team at Coldwell Banker. He's also an approved Home Advantage agent that I'll talk more about later in the presentation. In today's webinar, we will talk about the market overview, current market conditions, the second half of the 2020 forecast, preparing to buy, choosing the right agent, Tower's Home Advantage program, and financing options. Jeremy, I will turn it over to you.
Hi, my name is Jeremy Walsh, and I'm with Coldwell Banker Residential Brokerage. On behalf of Tower Federal Credit Union, we'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, where we're going to first start talking about the market overview. We're going to discuss current market conditions and the forecast for the remainder of 2020. Our current market conditions are that we have very low interest rates. In fact, the interest rates now are the lowest that I've ever seen them in my 14-year career. I started in real estate back in 2007. And these are by far the lowest interest rates that we have ever seen. Throughout most of the country, we are starting to see rising housing prices. That's been going on for several years now. Fortunately, it has leveled off a bit, but we are experiencing lower than normal inventory. Anytime there's lower than normal inventory, typically prices start to rise. In 2020, when COVID struck, we basically went through a period where we didn't have a spring market of new listings, where the stay-at-home orders had kept a lot of people in their homes and not out looking for properties. And if you were staying in your home, you weren't necessarily going to put your home on the market. The supply is limited and the demand is very strong. We also are seeing multiple offers on homes, which is very common for homes priced appropriately in today's market. As a buyer, you just need to know that it's a very competitive environment as a buyer. So you have to be fully prepared when you step into looking to purchase a home. The second half of 2020 forecast is that home prices will continue to rise. It's going to feel more like a seller's market as it has been prior to COVID. Supply and demand is definitely an issue, which is causing a rise in the pricing, as I just mentioned. And then the inventory is at an all-time low, and it varies throughout the country, obviously, but particularly here in Maryland, we are experiencing an all-time low inventory, and we know that that is taking place in a lot of areas throughout the country as well. Nationally, the new home builders are about 250,000 homes short of demand for the last several years. We see a lot of statistics that they're 750,000 homes behind, 1 million homes behind. So as you can imagine, if there's a limited inventory in the residential housing market with resale properties, homes that have already been built, and then you factor in the fact that we're 750,000 homes behind over the last several years, you can see how it's such a limited supply with not a lot of options. Local job growth should stay strong. Obviously, that varies throughout the country as well, but here locally, we are experiencing a very good economy and very good job growth. And then interest rates are predicted to remain low. We do not know how low they will remain, whether or not they will go up in the future. We do not think that they are going to go down again. So now is a great time as a buyer to lock into a very low interest rate. So now we're going to talk about preparing to buy. The first thing when preparing to buy that we have to consider is owning versus renting. One of the things to take into consideration is equity. Real estate is historically a very solid investment. You want to look at your monthly mortgage versus your rent. Build your equity in your home and not your landlord's home. And what's been very interesting to see over the last several years are the reports that show about 50% of major cities in the country are cheaper to own versus rent. So now is a great time to lock in that low interest rate, start building equity for yourself. Every time you make a mortgage payment, the mortgage balance goes down. With prices continuing to rise, the value of your property is going up in value, so you create equity for yourself. When we look at own versus rent, we want to consider, what does a starter home look like? Well, most people are staying in their home for an average of 5 to 10 years in their first home, and then they'll take that equity build up in that first home and they'll roll it into the next home. You know, maybe they purchase a townhome, and then they will move that into their single family home as they continue to grow. And then eventually you build up to your dream home. If you do that a couple times throughout your life, eventually maybe you are in that dream home that you've always envisioned yourself being by taking the equity and continuing to put it into the next property. Of course, there are tax benefits of owning versus renting, but we always suggest to consult a tax advisor because we are not tax advisors. And then the pride of home ownership. Having a home in our great country it creates a lot of pride and mindset, and it's just a great feeling to own a home. So we're going to talk about preparing to buy and what your plan should look like. First and foremost, you want to look at your finances. You want to get your financial picture in place. The first step in that would be to contact Tower for a pre-approval letter. You want to understand down payments, closing costs, an earnest money deposit, and inspection costs. You want to identify your must-haves and where you want to be location-wise, the price point, which is why the pre-approval is so important, because you get a feel for how much you can afford. And then, of course, what are you looking for in a home? The features. And what are some of the things that you need to have versus that you want to have. And then what we do here is we actually schedule a buyer consultation with your local realtor, where you'll sit down and you'll talk about your goals. You'll talk about the areas that you're looking in, and you'll determine whether or not your realtor is a great fit for you and is going to represent you well. So let's talk a little bit about the home buying process. So the first step in the process is to get pre-approved. We talked about that in the previous slide. You want to get with Tower and you want to get a pre-approval letter in place. The next step will be to meet with a realtor and do a buyer consultation. Once you meet with your realtor has access to be able to set you up on a customized home search and give you access to the multiple listing service, which is the service that all realtors use on a daily basis to identify, find properties in real time, and to provide the most up-to-date information to our buyer and seller clients. Once you're on the home search, you will then start to identify properties that you would like to see. Then you'll schedule your home showings with your agent, and that process is probably what takes the longest. It's finding your home of choice. Once you do find your home of choice, your agent should be able to provide you what's called a market analysis. It's a look at the local inventory in the market, what is recently sold, what's currently for sale, to determine the offer price and terms. In today's market, you want to make sure you're not overpaying for a property, so you want to make sure that you're looking at true market value, and your agent will be able to guide you through that process. Then, of course, we're going to prepare, sign, and present the offer documents to the seller and the seller's agent with your pre-approval letter and your earnest money deposit check. Here in Maryland, an earnest money deposit check is a form of consideration for the seller to accept your offer. It's typically 1% of the sales price in Maryland. That could vary throughout the country, but for instance, if you were purchasing a $300,000 home, you would put a check up with your pre-approval letter for $3,000. That then gets deposited once your offer gets accepted into an escrow account and goes towards the purchase. It's not an additional cost to you. Once your offer is submitted, you're going to have your agent is going to negotiate your offer on your behalf and hopefully get you under contract once all of the terms have been agreed upon by the seller and the buyer. You'll then provide what's called a ratified contract, a completed contract where everybody has signed off on all of the different changes that have been made, if any changes have been made, and we'll send that over to the loan advisor. Once that takes place, the loan processing will begin. The appraisal will be in process to be ordered, and eventually you will receive a commitment letter once they've reviewed all of your financing documents that are required in order to get you through the pre-approval and finally the final loan commitment. That's an ongoing process. It takes about 30 to 45 days from the time that you go under contract to the time that you go to settlement. The title company will then order the title, and the title company is to make sure that there are no liens against the property so that you secure the property free and clear of any issues. You'll then schedule your inspections. There are different types of inspections depending upon the type of home that's being purchased, and we'll go over that here in a second. Negotiate repairs and come to an agreement. So once you do your inspections, if you have repairs that do come up, as long as you have an inspection contingency in place in your contract, you can then negotiate repairs with the seller and then come to an agreement. Last, we'll perform a final walkthrough and confirm that the repairs have been made as they were supposed to be according to the contract. And again, the closing occurs anywhere from 35 to 45 days from signed contract. So because it's such a low inventory market throughout most of the country, we wanted to give you an idea of what you can do to put yourself in the best position as a buyer in order to succeed in today's market. The first thing to consider is writing a letter. When we say writing a letter, we want you to write a letter about how much you appreciate the property, how much you want to live in the community. Maybe mention something about your family or what's important to you about living in that particular community. Maybe even mention some things to the seller that you're very fond of. Maybe they put in a kitchen that you really love. And you really just want to, separate yourself from the competition. Not everybody is writing letters to the seller to say, please accept my offer. We recently, an example here in Maryland, we actually got a home under contract for less than another offer because we wrote a nice letter to the sellers on behalf of the buyers. So your agent should be able to help you with preparing a nice letter to include with your offer. You want to minimize your contingencies. When we mention contingencies, we're talking about inspections, we're talking about financing, we're talking about a lot of different things, and your agent will be able to advise you on what to do to succeed based upon the current situation and how much competition there is. You must be prepared for multiple offers in today's market. Because the inventory is so low, a lot of the other buyers are going to be looking at the same homes that you're looking at. And because there's not a lot to choose from, they're going to be wanting that particular home that you want. So it would be natural to be prepared for multiple offers. We like to say to our buyers in today's market, don't really search for a deal because the deal is actually getting under contract. In today's market, you're not able to really purchase properties for less than what they are worth. The buyers determine the value in the market. So if there's multiple offers on a property, it means that it's most likely to sell for more than what it's actually listed for. That is very common in today's market. So don't search for a deal because it's not likely that you're going to find that deal. I would be a little concerned as a buyer in today's market if no one else was interested in the property. You also want to listen to your agent's professional suggestions. The agent that you choose, you want to make sure that you're working with a professional to begin with, but you also have to let that agent advise you. If you trust that agent and you wanted to work with them up front, and their goal is to put you in the best position possible, it's very important that you listen to your agent's professional suggestions. These are agents that are on the ground, that are helping people buy properties regularly. This may be the first time for you, and we understand that it can be a stressful process, but it really it becomes more stressful when you start to not listen to your agent's professional suggestions. So please take that into consideration as well. Now, inspection costs vary throughout the country, but I just wanted to give you a basic guideline as to how to protect yourself when you go under contract on a home and you're going to perform your inspections. These are some of the inspection costs. The other reason we like to bring to your attention the inspection costs is because if you're really not sure if you want to proceed with the offer, or you're not sure if this is the home for you, then you don't want to go under contract and then start performing all of these inspections and spend all this money knowing that you might want to get out of the contract. So this is just a way to protect yourself. You have a standard home inspection. The standard home inspection covers all the structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, whether or not there's water issues. They look at the roof. They look at everything, all the major systems of the house. That's a basic home inspections, anywhere from $400 to $600 in today's market. Radon is an odorless gas that's found in the earth. You're not sure if you have it unless you do the test. Most home inspectors do perform that test for an additional $150, $125. The chimney is very important to inspect as well, especially if you have a wood-burning fireplace. That's anywhere from $150 to $225. Sometimes there is an additional cost for cleaning the actual chimney itself. In our area, we have a lot of well, which is, when you're not on public water, that could be an additional $450. And then you also, if you have a pool, an in-ground pool or an above-ground pool, there's an additional cost to open the pool certain times throughout the year if it's not open. It's $285 to $450. And then septic, if you're not on public sewer, another $285 to $450. I always suggest the camera and scan it, because it's actually the best one to do, because you can identify some issues when you do the camera scan. And then, of course, termite, the wood-destroying insects, anywhere from $35 to $75 here. And all of these inspections are typically paid for at the time of the inspection. So just keep in mind your inspection costs as you're out there searching for properties. Make sure it's the right one for you before you do your inspections. So we're going to talk about choosing and working with a realtor. So just some industry statistics that I think are important to share with you today is in 2019, at the end of 2019, they did an analysis. There are 1.2 million realtors nationwide, and 600,000 of those agents that are licensed did not sell a single property. So half of our industry is an inactive industry. So it's really important to know that as a buyer, because you want to make sure that you're working with a professional when you go out in today's market to try to navigate through the challenging market that we're in, the low inventory, the multiple offers, the contract preparation. It's really important to know that every 2 agents you see, only one of them sells any houses. So it's very easy to get into our industry. It's hard to remain in our industry. The average real estate agent, just so you know, sells 7 transactions per year, and 87% fail within the first year. And of course, a lot of those agents are part-time agents. Some agents get their license just to help a family member or friend. Nothing wrong with that. But in today's market, you just want to make sure you're fully prepared and you know what agent you're working with. And I think today is more important than ever to be working with a professional. How do I find an agent? Well, Lori mentioned earlier the Home Advantage Referral Network, which she's going to talk about here in a minute, which is a great program where you have access to agents throughout the whole country. And those agents have been looked at and vetted through the credit union to make sure that they're productive agents in the market, that they serve clients the way that the credit union wants them to serve clients, and that they do a good job for the members. You can also look for a recommendation from a friend from work, or somebody in the community that recently had a great experience. That's one of the ways that we've built our business, is by referral. So we have a lot of our clients referring us to other people, and then we also have our past clients, family members, and friends also referring us people. So a recommendation is always good. It comes with a certain level of trust. Ask, would they use their agent again? What did they like about the agent? How timely were they with their communication? Did they get back to them right away? Did they respond when the client needed them? You should interview a prospective agent. Sometimes you may want to interview a couple different agents. You want to evaluate how well you can work with the agent, their resources. Are they full-time? Do they have the experience? Maybe a great question would be, how many homes have you recently sold in the areas that I'm looking in? You just want to make sure that you feel really comfortable. You're going to be spending a lot of time with your agent from start to finish, especially in the days market. And so you just want to make sure that you can establish a good working relationship that you both are comfortable with. You also want to make sure that you can help each other fulfill each other's expectations throughout the process. So a buyer's agent role. What does a buyer agent do? The first thing they do is they search for properties with you. They show you homes. They help you find the right property. Hopefully they're fulfilling their fiduciary role, which they should be pointing out the things that they see that could be a concern for you in the future. Maybe some of the things that they've experienced in the past that you may not know about as a buyer, but because of the agents, because of the time that they've spent in the industry and their experience, they can point out things that, you know, other clients have not liked about properties or issues that they've had in the past. They also should provide you with a comparable market analysis. We talked a little bit about that before, to make sure that you're purchasing the property at the right price in today's market. They're going to strategize and negotiate the terms, so you want to make sure you're working with a strong negotiator as well. They're going to review, present, analyze all offers and counteroffers. They're going to discuss contracts, contingencies, any pitfalls that could come up, or any pitfalls that actually do come up. Things happen in transactions all the time. They're going to help you through the inspection process, the appraisal process, whether or not you need, whether or not the seller needs a rent back. If you're a buyer, some sellers still need to identify a property to move to. They may need a little bit of time to move out of their property. There are what we call rent back agreements that can be put in place. Certain homes that are built at a certain time, there could be some concern for the base paint. They're also going to provide ongoing negotiations, pre-settlement logistics. They're going to work with your lender and your title company. They're going to be there with you for walkthrough and closing. The final walkthrough is when you, right before you go to closing, you want to make sure the home's in the same condition as it was when you went under contract. And really, they're your guide throughout the entire process, the leader in this process. They're going to help you step by step walk through what could, in most cases, seem like a stressful or overwhelming situation and turn it into an enjoyable experience for you. The best part for the buyer in Maryland is that the commission is actually paid for by the seller. That does vary throughout the different areas of the country, but here locally, the seller does pay the buyer's commission. We have what's called a cooperating arrangement here in Maryland. Now Lori is going to talk to you about the Home Advantage program and the benefits.
Thank you, Jeremy. To give you some more additional details about Home Advantage, I want to talk just a little bit about what the program is and what it is involved. And before buying a home, you'll definitely want to check out the Home Advantage program from our website. But basically, it is your real estate resource center. And it's a network of real estate agents that give our members cash back at closing. And the cash back equates to 20% of their commission, which can be substantial for some people. The Home Advantage program allows you to find a qualified real estate professional. You can find a realtor there in the various bios of each of the real estate agents. You can search for homes from the multiple listing service. And this is the same listing service that the real estate agents see. And you can view that in real time. You can research market trends and then search for recently sold homes. So it's a very valuable resource center for all things real estate. And again, you can find this program at towerfcu.org on our real estate center. Home Advantage is not available in all states. This slide shows you a sample of the cash reward that you would receive at closing, and you can take this rebate in the form of a check back after closing or apply it to your closing costs. So let's move on now and talk about financing options. And Jeremy touched on pre-approvals, and just to reiterate, this is one of the main steps you'll want to go through when you decide to purchase a home. When you get pre-approved, it is the actual mortgage application minus the property address. So you'll be entering all important information like your income and your assets and things of that nature, except you just don't know the property address yet. A credit report will be pulled, and typically pre-approvals are free. They should not be of cost to you. And typically they're good for 120 days, allowing you to have time to work with your real estate agent to search for homes and enter into an offer. And if for some reason you have not been able to find your home within that 120 days, you just re-engage with your loan advisor to have that pre-approval reissued. During this time frame, it's important that you do not change financial behavior. For instance, you wouldn't want to go out and purchase a car or things of that nature, extra credit cards, because those could have an effect on your credit score. So during your pre-approval phase and in your mortgage process, you would want to maintain the same financial habits. And typically, real estate agents will require you to show them your pre-approval, just so they know that they're showing you the right homes. So now let's talk about loan programs. Very basically, fixed-rate mortgages are the most common in the marketplace today because of the very low interest rates. They're almost historically low, actually. And the interest rate on a fixed-rate mortgage simply stays fixed for the entire term of the loan. Adjustable-rate mortgages are still common in our marketplace as well, and it's where the interest rate is fixed for an initial time period, and then it will adjust periodically after that. So for example, if you have a 5-1 ARM, the rate would stay fixed for the first 5 years and then adjust annually after that. And typically there will be an overall lifetime cap of the interest rate on adjustable rate mortgages. Here at Tower, we offer VA loans within the state of Maryland and Virginia, properties only. And we have terms from anywhere from 10 years up to 30 years. We also offer jumbo mortgages for a minimum loan amount of $510,401, and it goes up to a max amount of $850,000. And we also offer vacation or second homes if someone is in the market to purchase an additional home. So how much do I need to purchase a home? Well, when you buy a home, there's a couple of different types of money you need in order to purchase that home. First, there's your down payment money. And the down payment is the percentage of the cost of the home paid at closing. And it's based off the purchase price. Some lenders do offer what is known as 100% financing. At Tower, we do offer this type of loan in Maryland, DC, Virginia, Texas, Colorado, and Florida, except for condos in Florida. And 100% financing simply means that you do not have to put any money down, but you will have closing costs to pay. At Tower, we also offer 97% financing, which means that you're only required to put 3% down of your own funds. And then jumbo loans are at 5% down. To avoid private mortgage insurance, you need to put 20% down from the purchase price, and we'll talk a little bit more about private mortgage insurance in a different slide. And condos, we require 10% down for those. Next, you need your closing costs. And closing costs will range anywhere from 3 to 6%, depending on the patient. So it kind of depends on where you are as to how much closing costs are going to be for you. Closing costs includes the lender fees, the title company fees, state and local fees. To have an idea of what all is involved in closing costs, I always encourage folks to look at our loan consultant feature on our website at towersdu.org at the bottom of our mortgage options page. You will see a feature for the loan consultant, and basically it's a type of calculator where you'll enter your purchase price, how much you're putting down, the state and county you're buying in, and then it'll return details for you of an estimate of closing costs. Next, you'll need your upfront expenses. And Jeremy talked a lot about our Earnest money deposit, which is typically 1% of the purchase price. And again, that is typically in the form of a check that goes into an escrow account, and it is collected at the time of you submitting an offer. And then you will have your home inspections to pay. As Jeremy mentioned, those vary with the type of inspection. And then once you have signed a contract, both you and the seller have signed the contract, and you provide that to your loan officer or loan advisor, that's typically the point where you pay your application fee. So let's talk about private mortgage insurance. That it's a buzzword. A lot of people talk about it. They want to learn more about it. So what is it? Private mortgage insurance is protection for the lender in case of default. And it's needed on loans that are less, when you're putting less than 20% down payment. And this will vary by lender, as different lenders may have different types of programs to avoid private mortgage insurance. If you have private mortgage insurance on your loan, it becomes part of the premium it's a premium that's collected at the time and becomes part of your overall mortgage payment. And your mortgage payment is made up of the principal and interest of your loan, taxes and homeowner's insurance, and then your private mortgage insurance premium. And again, for that closing cost detail estimate and an estimate of the private mortgage insurance, you can check out that loan consultant feature at towersdu.org. The loan application process, I'll just reiterate this. Jeremy touched on this as well. So first, you're going to get pre-approved. You'll begin working with your real estate agent to narrow down the home you want, and you'll submit your offer. And at the point where the offer is signed by both you and the seller, you then take that contract and provide it to your loan advisor. And this is the point, again, where you need to be prepared to pay your upfront fees. Again, this may be home inspections, this could be your application fee, but there will be some upfront charges. Once you've provided the contract, the contract to the credit union, the credit union will take your contract and your pre-approval and start turning it into an actual mortgage loan. And this is the point where the processing begins and the appraisal is ordered, all of the title work is ordered. We begin collecting your verifying documents for your income and your assets and anything else that may be needed in order to process your loan. Once everything is collected and everything is in and okay, then your loan approval or your loan commitment is presented to you, and the closing is scheduled. And again, as Jeremy mentioned, the closing date will be relayed in the contract, and typically it's 35 to 45 days. And at this point, everyone is working to get you to closing. So everybody works together, the real estate agent, the lender, the title company, we're all working together to get you to the closing table of the date that's listed in your contract. Some benefits of a tower mortgage would be an easy application process, and you have actual folks that you can call, and if you're local, you could actually come in and see those folks by appointment. We offer competitive rates, and a big one here is that the mortgage is always serviced for the life of the loan here at Tower. So Tower never sells the servicing of your loan. You can always pick up the phone and call Tower once you've obtained a mortgage and ask any questions you may have. We also offer payroll deduction. And Tower Title Services is available to you as a title company in Maryland, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. So in summary, as a buyer, you'll want to get pre-approved. You'll begin working with a real estate agent and registering for the Home Advantage program so you can take advantage of all those resources that you have there. You'll work with your agent to look at homes, and you'll prepare to buy and write your contract and bring your contract back to Tower and begin using Tower Title for your closing if you're in Maryland, Virginia, or Pennsylvania. Thank you for listening to Tower's Home Buying Basics webinar.